It's just a jump to the left, and then a step to the right. Put your hands on your hips, you bring your knees in tight, but it's a pelvic thrust that really drives you insane. Let's do the time warp again. Let's
especially the lovely Shattercast performers from all around the world. And now, I would like, if I may, to introduce you to a trailer of Strange Journey. It's the story of the creation of Rocky and the 50 years that have followed, because in very many ways it's as much your story as it is mine. So, let's keep the rainbow banner flying high. Can you imagine when I was cutting people's hair, I said to them, one day, well, this will be torn down, and I'll get a statue of you, wearing fishnets. I was contemplating whether I should get a proper job or stay as an actor. I said to Jim Shaw, I'm writing a little musical which might amuse you.
They came to Magenta-A.
I basically suggested to Richard on the simple principle that it's a rock and roll horror show, but if he just called it what it is.
The opening was a phenomenal success. Everyone just went nuts.
From the beginning, I just envisioned it as a film.
Not having money added to the edginess was very hard work.
We completed the film.
And it flopped.
It was like somebody had let all the air under the balloon.
They suggested, why don't we run the film in Newman? Everybody was amazed at that kind of success.
It's this snowball effect, which goes from shadows
Fine umbrella, you cheap bitch.
to costumes to props.
Well, they were right.
It was like a rock concert. I mean, you would hope at this point in world history that something like Rocky would be a relic. You have to turn to your child and explain, people used to be really afraid of someone professing that they are somewhere between two genders.
That point when you're trying to figure things out, you can go to some place where there are a lot of people that are trying to figure that out. You can be there and you can be accepted for who you are.
The truth about that, of course, we all are very celebrated. God has a certain different ways.
looking fabulous. Wow, lots of you. There's all the way up to the balconies up there. Hi. All right, I'm going to make a couple of quick announcements at the top of the show. Number one, there will be a 15-minute intermission during the show. Yes, there will be really a 15-minute intermission. At which point, go out to the lobby, buy some merchandise, buy some drinks, pee, make some friends. It's all good. Additionally, the role of the man in the front row who was dragged here by his wife against his will actually be played by a man in the fourth row who was dragged here by his fiancée reluctantly. All right, now that we've got that out of the way, we have a fantastic show for you this evening. We have a fantastic shoutcast, LDOD, they perform at the Plaza. Go check them out. We have two of the stars from the movie. We have the Queen of Cult movies, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, on this enormous screen, just for a viewing pleasure after 50 years. What do you think of that? Now that you are excited and super pumped for the show, I'm going to ruin your evening by telling you that there are some rules we have to go over. I hear a lot of booze, and I heard that this theater was haunted, so I'm kind of scared. It's Halloween. All right. Number one, this is an audience participation movie, which means you, the audience, will participate. Early Order is an audience-up show. It means you guys are creating the magic. You guys control what happens in this venue. You guys will be yelling a lot of foul language. Let's yell. Whatever wants to yell the most offensive thing they can think of on that count of three. 1, 2, 3. I agree with every word of that, especially that lady that said cunt. If you're easily offended by foul language, fuck you, no refunds. There's no refunds. It's just that the guy who processes the refunds has been furloughed by the government, so you understand. On that note, on this stage will be scantily clad women. There will be scantily clad men. There will be scantily clad men versus scantily clad women. Women versus scantily clad men. And a 6-foot inflatable penis. If any of that is offensive to you, fuck you, no refunds. If you're a parent who brought your child to the show, raise your hand. You're a terrible parent. We love you for it. Thank you for letting us corrupt the next generation of Rocky Horror fans. Stand up for a second. How old are you? 18. Good. That's what I heard. When they go to school on Monday morning and they go up to their teacher and they say, fuck you, no refunds. Fuck you, no refunds. You're pregnant or planning on becoming pregnant. RFK Jr. warns they should not stick Tylenol in your foreskin. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. Just so you know. Rule number 2. If you have anything to throw this evening, I think all of you have stuff to throw this evening. Throw it to the left of you. Throw it to the right of you. Throw it straight up in the air. Do not under any circumstances throw it at the screen or the performing members of cast. Because if you throw it at the screen, that's a giant fucking movie screen. You're gonna have to take it home with you. And what are you gonna do with a giant movie screen in your living room? This guy's looking at me like pornography, of course. Yes. No, sir, vaginas at 20 feet wide are terrifying. Please do not throw anything at the screen. Do not throw anything at the cast. Because you break down, you blow down, you're gonna have to take them home with you. They're emotionally fragile. It sounds sexy though, but they're not housebroken. You're gonna pee all over the place and cry and masturbate during dinner. Please don't throw anything at the cast. The exception, of course, is the $20 bill scene. In which case, throughout the entire movie, you have $20 bills. Throw them on stage. We're good with that. Rule number 3. This theater, as gorgeous as it is, and it is way too nice for actually fend for themselves, all right? Rule number 4. If you have a cell phone, put it on vibrate, put it in your crotch. If someone calls you during the show, it'll be that much more enjoyable. If your phone rings during the show, we're going to stop the show and answer your crotch. Rule number 5, I am okay with you guys having sex in the audience. So long as you are okay with stopping the show and watching. I should also note that these theaters are all now equipped with high-powered night vision cameras pointed directly at your crotch. So if you happen to be the CEO of a tech startup or a city member of Congress, please just keep the low of the headset. It's weird that I have 2 points of reference for that joke. Rule number 6, if you have any drugs, hand them to me for safekeeping. Not tonight, one of these days. She's had it, see me after the show, all right. And the last and most important rule, ladies and gentlemen, is have some fucking fun. I want to see you dancing. All right. Little bit of audience participation. Here's what I want you to do. Take your right hand, put it over your heart. Take your left hand, put it over the part that beats a lot. And now please repeat after me as you say the Transylvanian oath. We swear! We swear! Often and loudly. To strike a blow! For glamour and frivolity! For 6 inch high heels! For rock and roll! For interplanetary intercourse! And the Transylvanian way! That's what I love that for. Now please join me as we sing the Transylvanian national anthem. Me. Transylvania, land of night. Transylvania, land of night. Transylvania. Yeah, all right. Transylvania. Perfect. Transylvania, you hit a lot. If you have seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show in the theater 5 times or more, you may sit down. If you have seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show in the movie theater 1 time or more, you may sit down. Oh, wow, everyone's standing! Take your right hand, put it on your forehead. Give me a nice damsel in distress sigh on the count of 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Much better. Man, I need 3 of those grants. I need it to be like a marine fucking a lumberjack fucking a gorilla, okay? 1, 2, 3. My nipples are hard. Good. Ladies, we're gonna take your hands back on your forehead. We're gonna do 3 of those damsel in distress sighs, okay? 1, 2, 3. Some of you might have caught on where I'm going with this bit. I want the men to give me as many of those damsel in distress. Wait. Yeah, let's go with that. I want the men to give me as many of those damsel in distress sighs and the ladies to give me as many of those military grunts. We're going to see how hot it can be. All right, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, finished? Applause for all the members and you guys have checked out. Christmas. Or as we Jews like to call it, scary Hanukkah. If you are here tonight in a costume, and I mean a good costume, not slalomite, I mean a real good costume, and you think you can win the costume contest, come on down onto the stage. Come on. This is going to be terrifying, but you can do it. Come on down. There we go. You made see you after the show at the merch table. Hang out over there, and I have some prizes for you. All right. Back to your seats, back to your seats, back to your seats. You guys were all fantastic. Actually, you know what? Let's have the three winners. And the three winners can stay here for a second. I do have the prizes here. There we go. Third place for our Rocky. Second place for Dr. Scott. First place for Dr. Frank and Fred. Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, my name is Larry Gazelle. I'm the president of the Rocky Horror Picture Fan Club. If you guys would like to support my terrible life decisions, please go buy a poster in the lobby. I really appreciate it. I'm about to bring some very special people onto the stage. The original Magenta from the Rocky Horror Picture Fan Symphony, yes.
Yeah, so all of this foul language is just going to be reverberating off of this great sound, system here. And,
Yes.
And we're just going to fuck this theater up tonight. I'm sorry.
Honestly, I think some of the people, normally at the symphony when they're playing the viola, they use just as much foul language. So, all right, Pat, I have some questions for you. You were one of not only the stars of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but of the Rocky Horror Show. Before it became a movie, it was a play in London. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like working in the play and how that all came about?
Would you like to ask me how I got the part?
How did you get the part of Magenta?
I auditioned.
Good answer.
So, my agent called me at home. He said they want to see you for a rock and roll show they're doing upstairs at the Workport Theatre. The Workport Theatre is a tiny little theatre, little fringe theatre at the Workport, 60 seats, 60 wooden seats, and no stage, just a room, nothing, absolutely nothing. So, some kinds of great things have been done there, wonderful plays. And so I said, right, I said, what is it? He said, a rock and roll musical. And I said, really? I said, I don't sing rock and roll. He said, they want you to sing a rock and roll song. He suggested like a Paul Anka or something. Anyway, I said, I don't know how to do that. And he said, well, that's what they want. And I said, well, do you know what this musical is about? He said, yes, I think it's something to do with a circus. But he wasn't wrong, because I've been in this circus ever since. To meet the people, and so the Royal Court round the corner on Sloane Street is the London Irish Club where they were holding the auditions. So I went in there and I thought maybe that was a bit fortuitous because I am Irish, so I thought maybe that's... So I went in to see them, and there was, unbeknown to me at the time, Richard O'Brien in his skin jacket and his long hair from here to here, and none here. And Jim Sharman in his white Australian geezer, in his white wedge platform shoes. And then Richard Hartley at the piano with his curly hair, like magenta light out to here. And I thought, they're okay. And they said, Richard Hartley said, may I have your sheet music, please? I said, I don't have any sheet music. I said, but I've got the tune in my head. And he said, So I said, I'm going to sing a little 1930s number by Jesse Matthews, who was also famous for high kicks. They said, all right. And I began. I was a prisoner locked in a jail, love held the only key. Love had me cry. And I could see them sort of... And Richard O'Brien said, if I played on my guitar, if I played a song for you that, you know, and I show you the words, do you think you could possibly sing along with me? I said, So he went, dun 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 dun, where we stand, and first born. And I thought, oh my goodness. I thought this song's wonderful. I don't know why I thought that, like how I knew, but I just was really in awe of it. And so that finished, and they said, well, thank you, goodbye. And I went off skipping down the King's Road, where all the beautiful people were hanging out, all of those in the Granny Takes a Trip jackets and the velvet flares, gorgeous. And I was skipping down the King's Road thinking, oh God, that song's brilliant, it's brilliant. So I got home, and within half an hour my agent phoned and said, they want you to do it, you've got the part. And he said, no, Pat, just a minute. You have to go down to the stage door of the Royal Court and get the script. I said, I don't care, I heard the song. He said, no, Pat, we'll get the script. And the other thing is agents, you know, 18 quid a week at the Royal Court, 10% of that was never quite good, you know, it's not quite what they wanted. So I went down, got the script, I hardly any script, I was Magenta, 1, 2, boring. No, nothing in that. Anyway, so, I said, I'm doing it, and they said, well, great. So we started, and went into rehearsal, and overnight, like Jim Sharman was saying, you have to write a song for you three, Nell, you, and Pat, like maybe something with dance. So Richard went home that night, sat up all night with the help of his wife, Kimmy, and came back the next morning with the Time Lord. And I looked at this and I thought, oh God, do I have to learn that? Jump to the left, step right, hands, hips, what? I mean, there's been nothing like that since the Hokey Cokey. That was ingenious that he told you how to do it. You put your right foot in, you take the left foot out, you do the hokey-cokey, and you shake it over the back. I said, right. And then he said, and it's Janet needs a song. And he went home that night and came back with a song for Janet next morning with touch it, touch me, I want to be dirty. And Janet said, I full of glitter and throwing it in the air. And lovely little bits of glitter that in those days were sort of made of kind of glass, you know, it was very prickly, the glitter. And then Tim Curry put on his high heels for the first time, and it was just wow! He took off like you wouldn't believe. It was beyond belief. And it's like give a boy a pair of high heels and you never know the word. It's extraordinary. So we got into, then we started the show within a week. It was the talk of London, beyond belief. In this little 60-seat room, no set, nothing, just a wooden chair for Rocky to stand on and do Charles Atlas pose, that was it. And then I'm coming up the stairs of the Royal Court to go up to the theatre upstairs, and then on the stairs queuing was Mick Jagger with Bianca in her white trouser suit and cape, which was her attire at the time. And I walked by there nonchalantly, and up the stairs. Got to the dressing room door, said, "Jagger's in!" Woo! And they all sort of went, and they seemed a bit nonplussed, and I thought, what's the matter? Anyway, so I went downstairs to change into my stockings and blah, blah, blah. And because I was a little demure in those days and a little shy, so I could change alone downstairs in the restroom, or whatever you call it, the loo. And I'm in the bathroom and I hear someone in the shower, and the person in the shower, and the person in the shower is going, I said, "Who's that?" He said, "It's Raina, Pat. I've got glitter under my foreskin and I can't." I said, "Don't show it to me." So I went back upstairs and little Nell sitting in the dressing room saying, "I'll play Rocky, I'll play Rocky." And then she couldn't wait to get into those shorts, you know. Jim Sharman, the director, came in and said, "Show cancelled." So poor Mick had to go home. So that was our first night. Oh, and the other wondrous thing that happened downstairs was a play called The Sea with an actress, Coral Brown, in it. And we couldn't start till 10 o'clock at night because our band would disturb us to play downstairs. And Coral Brown was going up with this fellow at the time, so she was able to bring him up to our show because hers was over and she brought him up. It turned out to be Vincent Price. So he looked around the floor and we thought, well, that's us, we're okay now.
Wasn't Vincent Price thought of to play the criminologist at one point?
Yeah, that's true. You mean
in the movie? In the movie.
I don't know.
Yeah, he was.
He was considered, but they wanted to go with, you know, Charles Gray did Shakespearean training. They wanted someone a lot more classic than
Really?
Vincent Price.
Better than Vincent Price?
So, and then later on, when they actually came out with the Rocky Horror video game for the PC, they had Christopher Lee playing the narrator.
Really? My God, I wish I had one of those. It would be worth a fortune on eBay.
Yeah. $29.95.
$29.95.
You know what, darling Larry? I mean, I met him when he first was interested in Rocky Horror. It's extraordinary. And there's nothing this boy doesn't know about this.
No.
I mean, a mine of information beyond belief.
What kind of car was Brad and Janet driving?
It was a station wagon.
But what kind of station wagon?
Ford Town and Country.
God, you're right, I've always wanted one of those. I've been looking for one of those forever. Really, you do?
I have one in my collection.
You do?
So Barry, I have a question for you.
Yes.
How did you get the part?
Well, let's see. Fox wanted Americans. They wanted actual Americans, not English people who speak with an American accent. You know, they wanted real American people. You know, and so I went down there and met Richard O'Brien, and I think it was Tim, and the people involved in it at the theater where it was playing at in L.A. at the Roxy. Yeah.
Never knew. You met them there.
I did, yeah. Susan and I went in just for a meet and greet with them. Susan came with me, and but the interesting is because the casting director knew Susan and myself, and he had in the back of his mind that we should have been the Brad and Janet. He eventually cast Grease and a bunch of other movies, but so he knew us, and he sort of manipulated us both coming at the same time and meeting the people involved, you know. And I didn't know that Susan was sort of like being set up, right, for this whole thing. But she was a real champion, and they asked her to sing Happy Birthday, right? Mm-hmm. And because she said, I can't sing, I've never sung, blah, blah, blah. And so she sang Happy Birthday. And then the next thing I know, that we were offered the parts, you know, and I said, well, I wasn't so sure that I wanted to do it at that point. So I saw it at the Roxy Theater with Tim. And back then, that's when it was a very small cast, and the people who played the other characters brought you to your chairs in the beginning of the movie. What were they? They were called Phantoms or something?
Yeah, they were ushers, but there was a reason for that. But anyway, go on. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. And I remember going that night, I thought, well, I'm going to look at it and see how it is. And we sat down, and we were ushered to a table by the front, and I was, all of a sudden, I felt something under the table. And somebody was under the table licking my toes. And it was Kim Milford, who was playing Rocky that night. And I thought, well, this is something I've got to do. And then I read the script, and I saw that on page, I think 47, 48, I was boned by Tim Curry. Right? And so I said, I'm in. 100%. Huh?
Nothing. I said he was in.
Yes, he was in. I always liked a little Frankenfurter, didn't we? With a little curry on the side. Curry Frank hot dog thing. Okay.
So, you then did the film, and this was the first time you were meeting the American stars when they're filming the movie. What was it like meeting the American contingent?
Well, it was great, but we were sort of, because Jim Sharman insisted that the original cast did it from the stage version, and he wouldn't do it without us. Like Jagger wanted to play Frank, Jagger's company wanted to buy the rights. No. So we had the minute budget because we were no stars, and we had to have the two Americans, as Barry said.
We didn't make a lot of money either. Come on.
I wasn't talking about money. I was talking about the budget for the film. I wasn't talking about wages.
Okay, well, let's talk about wages.
No. It's dull. Anyway, so then I was told that also somebody was coming from the Roxy who played it there. And so we hadn't met any of the Roxy cast. And so we're in rehearsal one day for the singing rehearsal for the film. And we just go for the singing rehearsal in this empty, vacated hotel in Earl's Court in London. And anything in the room were the chairs, the piano, and anything we left behind was a chandelier in this room. And then we're sitting there getting up and doing our songs, and then someone came in and this rather big boy walks in. And he said to me, "Ha! Well, I didn't understand." Anyway, so then people got up to sing the songs, and then this fellow got up to sing and proceeded with hot patootie, and I swear the chandelier shook. The power of that voice was beyond belief. I fell off my chair. That was unbelievable. Anyway, Meatloaf, Mr. Loaf, the set of the film, and we're filming, and Daisy Big Bang was filming, and Mr. Loaf comes up to me and said, "I was voted the best kisser in my high school in Texas." I said, "Really? Well, one would have to sample that." So I proffered my lips, and he breathed. They were right. You are the best kisser in your high school in Texas.
I had a tasty slice of meatloaf during that time.
Yeah, well, he was under the table. I mean, I knew this film, things were going to work. The main question one is asked, did you think after 50 years? And I always say, yeah, of course, I wouldn't have accepted the part when I realized it would last 50 years and had this reception. But the real thing for me was I was in Cape Town at the time, in the early 70s, and so I'm in South Africa, my husband's on the stage playing Othello, and I'm on the front with him, and this guy came up to me and he said, "You know, your film has been banned in South Africa for corrupting the youth." I said, "Really?" And he said, "And it's also been banned in Germany for cannibalism." And that's the moment I knew we were a hit.
And incest, apparently. I mean, you and your brother in this, right? Wasn't there like a little thing going on between you and your brother?
Never.
Okay.
You all made that up with your elbow sex.
Yeah.
I never did it with my brother. No matter what. I mean, Jim Sharp, it doesn't matter, but the point was, what happened was that during rehearsals, Jim Sharman said, "Could you and Richard have a kind of sign between you to show that you're, in cahoots about something, about taking over, And so it was like nudge, nudge, wink, wink sort of thing. And O'Brien, being the wonderful boy, clever fellow he is, came up with that. And that's what you call that. But no, that was our nudge, nudge, wink, wink. We're taking over. Anyway, so that's how that came about.
Who came up with the elbow sex thing? Was that one of the shout-out things way back when?
Yeah.
Way back up.
But there is one thing, in fact, and I read Jim and Sean's book recently, which is Blood and Tinsel. Is it?
Blood and Tinsel, yeah.
Blood and Tinsel. So I bought the book. Oh, it was an eye-opener for me, because Jim Sharman was amazing in his direction. I said, Jim Sharman never directed. Jim Sharman had two looks. He never said anything, he had two looks. So if you did something and he went, he's like, "Oh, you like that? I'll give you more." Or if he went, "No, you didn't like that, but change it." And that's the only direction he ever gave. And it's extraordinary. I'm reading his book and the chapter on Rocky Horror, and he said he deliberately that to direct Tim Curry, so he could really push him to extremes. You see, so it was like Tim all right, you know, and that was, and he admits that's what he did. And then what he did with me and Richard when we were at the lift in the film, we were looking at Rocky going down the lift, and Jim Sharma just shouted the direction across the floor, bite her on the neck. So Richard thought, oh no, and he did that. And then, incest.
So Barry, the film comes out, and it started gaining traction and started getting audience participation. What's it like to have been called an asshole for 50 years?
I think I'm going to write a memoir. It will be, I have been your asshole for 50 years. And underneath it, in very small letters, it will say, fuck you. I've been called an asshole for so long that I think I can now run for the governor of Florida.
Pat, tell us about the most famous lips in cinematic history.
Yeah, well, it's astonishing how that all came about. It was, Jim Sharman said to me when he was, said he was going to make the film, this was extraordinary, we're making a film, that's amazing. And then he talked to me about it. He said, but we can't open with the usherette and everything because that won't work filmatically and blah, blah, blah. And I said, so I'm not playing the usherette? And he said, no. I said, then I'm not doing your film. And he said, no, Pat, you know. I said, no, sorry. And he said, well, you know, you've got to, look, he said, let's go round to John Goldstone's house, the new producer who was sitting there at the lunch we were at, and they lived round the corner, and he said, let's go round there, and I want to show you the sets. I said, fine, but I'm not doing it. I can't be the usherette and singing science fiction, I'm not doing it. So we went round, looked at the sets, John Goldstone's house, the miniature sets, and suddenly there was this pink laboratory. And I thought, oh, what's that? Look at that room. And they explained, and then I said, who are they? Who are those people on the motorbikes? He said, they're the Transylvanians, Pat. The who? Because they went in the play in the 60-seat room. I said, oh. And then I looked at Sue Blaine's costumes and her designs and Magenta's dinner dress and whatever. And I thought, oh, I'm doing this. So I did, and then we made the film, it was wonderful, then it was over, finished, last day, it's a wrap, go home, bye-bye. Phew, leaving. And Jim Sharma said, Pat, and then he said, just a minute. What? He said, have you ever seen Man Ray's painting of the lips? I said, no. Man Ray, no. It's his mistress's lips, it's in her mouth in the sky that he painted. And it's a disembodied mouth. I said, no, I've never seen it. He said, well, I have this idea that we could have your mouth singing science fiction. Well, in the meantime, I discovered he'd given the song Science Fiction to Richard O'Brien to record. And when I heard that with Richard, I thought, you stole my song. Anyway, so now you're saying I could be this disembodied mouth, miming to his voice. I said, his voice and my lips, how much? going great, and I forgot all about that. And someone rang one day and said, I packed the lips. I said, what? He said, the lips. I said, oh, the lips. Oh, yeah. And they said, so could you come down to our screen next week and do the film on it? I said, okay. So I went down to Elstree, and it was really strange. Elstree, for some reason, was dark. Nobody was working, nobody was filming. The only person there was me, just one person, with a tiny camera crew. And they took me outside, and there was no lights in the room, and they blackened my face completely and painted a mouth, and that was it. And then I went in, and the cameraman, and they had like a cloth over the camera and a piece cut out of it, and focusing on the lips. And they said, it's not working, it keeps going out of frame, they couldn't contain the... And that's because you're doing... Your face moves, and they couldn't keep just the mouth there. So this lighting cameraman said, just a minute, he said, you see that arc lamp over there? He said, take the lamp out of the clamp, unclamp it, take the lamp out and clamp her head. What? And my husband kept begging for a divorce at the time, and I said, tell her I can't divorce him today, I'm clamped.
Barry.
You're divine. I love you so much.
You also had a song in the movie, a solo number.
I did?
Yes. Do you remember what it was? It was cut out of the movie.
What was it? Once in a while.
Once in a while, yes.
I know every word.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Brilliant, that song.
Once in a while. Oh, just a second. Let me see. I wasn't ready for this at all. No, I'm not going to do that.
What is that thing called?
This is somebody yelled out the other night, right? They said, "Well, they have a mouth organ, but they did it with a real attitude, you know." And I said, "Yeah, from your mouth to my organ." You know, the other night, somebody yelled out after I tried it for a second. You know, they yelled out, "And that's why it was cut from the movie!" How long can I get these guys going? Once in a while, she don't want to call you. Speaking on the telephone, and once in your life she don't want to know you. You look around, the one you found, she is gone.